Welcome to Kilio Corey's Fish Room. Recently I posted a video about all the breeding activity that's been happening in the fish room, and I showed the shoe boxes that I use to raise the fry after they hatch up to a certain size, and I had a bunch of questions about how I do water changes in the shoe boxes. I have a semi-automatic water change system on the shoe boxes, and I wanted to show you guys how that works. As I'm showing you how the semi-automatic water change system works, I thought I'll time it to see how doing water changes on 23 shoe boxes, how long it takes. So let's start. So all I have to do is turn this tap here. We'll start the water changes and then I'll explain the details, and then turn this tap here and the water change has started. So I go around and then open all the taps on the shoe boxes, and I'm just going to go around and do all the taps now, and then we'll continue talking. Okay, I've turned all the taps on and we are at almost 3 minutes mark. So the shoe boxes are daisy chained, all interlinked with each other, all 12 of them on this side, but also the 11 on this side. So this side drains separately to this side, which means actually I can either choose to do this 12 and do the other 11 later, or I can simultaneously start draining them. And you can see this shoe box already is at the half mast mark, so I do roughly 50% water change every time I do water changes on the shoe boxes. So this one's already done, so we're going on to the second one. So like I said, they're all daisy chained. I'm using these push connectors, T's and elbows and taps, and there is a sponge at the end of where the water comes out. This whole line then connects through this adapter to the 13mm irrigation pipe, and then this is the main tap that I turn on and off, obviously, for it to drain, and then through gravity it drains, and then through this hose it goes through the floor of my fish room, and it is this one that is draining, and the other shoe boxes are draining through here. So these are, I'll just basically stack them in because I have a drain in the center of my fish room. And oops, we did too much talking, and this one's already probably drained too much, but you can't have too many or too much water changes for fry, so that's okay. For the rubra, that's probably enough. And so it's basically just going down the line, and obviously the shoe boxes at the very end drain the slowest. So what I normally do while the shoe boxes are draining, I actually keep an eye on them, but I also do some other tasks in the fish room, like feeding my fish or checking mops for eggs. And so while this is happening, I'm just going to go and check my mops for eggs. I'll just probably check Normani, which I haven't for a little bit, so I'm going to put Normani eggs in here. What I do is I have that container, I have aged water here. I need more hands. Just gonna fill that up with aged water quickly. I put a elder cone in the water to give it a bit of tannins and for fungus control. So if you look at these containers where the water is a bit colored, that's from these containers have eggs in them. That's the fungus control agent that I use. So then I pick them up, take them out of the tank, and when I look through this, because I haven't checked this one for ages, so there's a bunch of eggs in here. Let's pick some eggs. We are at about 17 minutes and this side of 11 is already all down. These two taps are on. So what I'm actually going to do is, without turning them off, I'm going to go to this end and I'm going to, excuse the mess, it's a fish room after all. I'm going to turn, so now it stopped the draining. This is on, so here I'm going to turn that on, so that now through the water reservoirs up here, which are all at the top, my water, aged water is up here, and I have same number of tanks on the other side at the top. So that's this side started draining and the other filling, and this side is still draining a little bit. So this one is done. So this one, I mean, there's no fish in there. I will just do a bit more water change on this side, but here, and that's the advantage of the system being two-sided. This on this side I started filling already, and we are on about 18.5 minutes. Okay, the race is on. These ones are just about full, and I also restarted filling the other side. So once these guys are around there, I can turn these taps on for these to fill as well, and just a tiny a little bit more in those, and then I'm going to be able to turn those taps off, and we're getting there. While we're waiting for all the shoe boxes to fill, I might as well show you guys how I keep my live blackworms alive for a month. So I receive live blackworms once a month. I get about quarter of a kilo, so 250 mil, which at the moment is enough for me for what I'm trying to do. I use the live blackworms to condition my fish, feed them to my breeders, but I don't use it as a main food source. So when I receive the live blackworms, I split them into 4 or 5 buckets. I keep them on the floor of the fish room, which is around 20 degrees, and every few days when the water stops being clear, like for example this water is at the moment a little bit cloudy, tiny a little bit, it's not as clear as when the water is new, so this is time for me to do a water change. I do sort of tip the bucket sideways basically over the sink and pour the water without pouring any of the worms out, and then refill from the tap directly from the cold water side the buckets, and I do that number of times a week, and the worms last for the whole month for me to feed my fish. So that's how I keep my live blackworms alive for a whole month. That was one of the questions I got asked, so I thought I'll answer that too. So we are getting there with the water changes, and we are up at half an hour almost. Okay, we are about on the 38th minute, and this 11 on this side is done. So I will just turn this tap off, and then this middle for the water changes, and that side is completely done. And on this side, these guys are done, and we have just a 6 still filling. Okay, here we are, the last one. I accidentally filled this one a bit too much, but we are pretty much done. And we are at 44, let's say 45 minutes. In 45 minutes did water changes on 23 shoeboxes. And let me show you the end of the daisy chain line. So at the end it's with a angle piece, and these are push connectors. Again, like I mentioned, the sponge helps make sure that the fry don't get sucked in, and because it's using those airline hose size pipes and we're using gravity, the suction is not super strong, hence it actually took 45 minutes to drain and fill just using the gravity. And I don't suck any of the fry, so I don't worry about sucking the fry in. While doing that, I did some mop checking. If I actually show you I picked about 51 Propanchax Normani eggs while the water change is happening, and I also fed some fish. I normally water plants, feed fish, check mops. I talked to you guys about how I keep my blackworms, so that's how easy it is with this semi-automatic turning the taps on and off way of changing water in the shoeboxes. Thank you for being with me in the fish room, changing water in the shoeboxes. I just wanted to again do this video because of a question that I got asked, so feel free to ask me any questions you might think of about how I run the fish room. The stuff I do in the fish room is what works for me. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the best way to do things, but that's how I do things, and it just works for me, and I have fun and breed a ton of fish. So that's all for now. Catch you next time.